All right, let's continue on with the second part of this tutorial using the Greenstyle Green Tee and my digital sloper or body map to adjust my pattern. And remember, if you want a free copy of the Green Tee, all you have to do is join the Greenstyle Patterns group on Facebook, and there is a code to get that pattern for free in their pinned post, and that will be linked down below. All right, so let's find my body map layer. I'm going to unlock it because I want to drag my back piece in. I'm going to just copy and paste, make sure it's in the body map layer, flip it, and start to drag it in place here. Okay, now just like with the front, we need to make sure we're working with a pattern without seam allowance. So that's the first thing that we're gonna do. Let me lock the body map layer, click on my back pattern piece, and it looks like it's already all joined and closed. So let's just go ahead and copy and paste and use our contour tool to remove that seam allowance, which was 3/8 of an inch. Okay, perfect. Bake appearance. And now again, we don't want that taken away from the center, so we are going to have to select and add that back. Let me go ahead and select this, lock it, the original pattern, so we don't move that on accident. And then we are going to, using a trackpad, so sometimes that happens. We're going to click and drag, select, oh, did it not do it? Select those 2 points, there we go. Hit my shift key and I'm going to nudge it over with my arrow keys there. Make sure it's lined up, looks good. I'm just going to check my neckline to make sure it still looks like it's the same shape as the original, and it does. Check everything else. Again, I'm not going to worry about whatever hem allowance there is in the pattern because it's a pretty simple pattern and I can always kind of change that later. So now that we have our back pattern piece without seam allowance, I'm going to unlock this original pattern, select and delete it. Select my new pattern. I'm going to make sure it's named so I don't lose track of it. And just like with my front piece, I am going to move it down so that that top shoulder point of the pattern is meeting my shoulder slope there. You need to nudge it down just a hair, make sure it's lined up with my body map. And I think that looks pretty good. And now I'm going to go ahead and change the shoulder slope and the width to match my shoulder point here. Oops. Got to select the node tool, of course. Oh, actually, I always forget. I did this in the last video too. Before you make any changes, copy, paste, make a copy, lock that layer so that you always have a comparison of what you're doing, so that when you're moving points around, if it changes something else, you can compare and just make sure you're not getting too far away from what it was, because look at how much that changed here. And I have so much extra fabric now. I mean, I already did have extra fabric compared to my body measurements, but now I can easily use, both the original pattern and my body map as a guide to kind of get that back in. I am probably going to move. Actually, I might even just delete this point and see what I can do to kind of move it closer to this spot right here. because this is if it's too much farther out, I will have kind of extra fabric gathering in the back, and I don't really want this to be a sharp line here. So let's just see. I'm gonna just try to manipulate it as much as possible, but still kind of make it a natural looking curve. I think that should be okay. Let me just take this away, see if it looks normal. I think it looks pretty good. Yeah, let's see here. It does slope inward a bit, but I think we're gonna run with it. All right. So now we have my shoulder slope, matches my actual shoulder slope. It's at my shoulder point. Again, depending on your fabric, you may want to move this point in a little bit. I am going to use kind of a slinkier fabric, something like bamboo spandex, modal. So it would be totally fine for me to move this in maybe like 1/4 of an inch. If I were using anything more structured, you definitely want to make sure that your shoulder width measurement is correct and you know where your shoulder point actually is, because those fabrics have a lot of return. If it's too short, you'll end up with a bunch of drag lines, a tight sleeve, that kind of thing. All right. I'm going to go ahead now and make my length measurements, or my length adjustments, sorry. Making sure that original pattern is still locked, selecting these nodes, and just gonna shift and make sure that's going up, up, up with my arrow key. I could probably also click and drag, but this is usually safer. And I think on the front, we stopped right there. Yep. Okay, that looks great. I am going to go ahead and actually, it's not gonna let me because it's locked. I think, actually, you know what? I'll keep it just in case and just turn it off. Oh, nope, too soon, because we have this little thing that happened when I was making my length adjustment, so we just have to correct for that. And it looks like I'm gonna be able to drag this one up. Oh, I know what I did. It's because I didn't put this at my waist like I did on the front. That's what happens when you break this up into several days and you can't remember exactly what you did before. But that's okay. That's looking good now. It's matched back up with the original pattern. Yep. Looks like I have enough room through the hip. I could maybe nip this in just a little. See how that looks. I like it. That's what we're gonna do. Okay, now I need to make sure it's trued up with my front piece. So I'm gonna go down and click on the seam line pattern piece, and I'm just gonna copy and paste it up here and just see how they're lining up. And like I said, the Greenstyle Green Tee pattern has more ease in the back piece, and that's good because generally you do have just a little bit more that you need to cover in the back, especially down below in your full hip and high hip area. You see up here the lengths are lining up, but there's not as much ease in the front as there is in the back. I'm actually probably going to change that. Because I might want a little bit more ease through the bust. So I might just match that up, but leave the extra ease in the back, because I probably will need that. And some of my other patterns that I've drafted myself, I've done that and it seems successful. You can see that the shoulders aren't matching up completely here, so I think I'm going to just make this back piece a little bit shorter to match that up. There we go. And I am going to, oh, it's hard to choose whether I want to make the back piece shorter up here or the front piece longer. I'll choose the front piece longer. All right. So now that's gonna match up. I can kind of manipulate that a little bit so it's a little straighter, but that curve still looks good in comparison to the back curve. It's going to line up just fine and sew together just fine. Got a little extra ease in the back. I think it's good. Okay, now I'm just gonna cut this and bring it back down here. Maybe do a dashed version so I can see the difference. Change the color. Because I did make a few subtle changes. Curve of the arm looks good. I didn't really change anything except for that little bit. And so I think, let me see here. I'm going to do my little style picker. Let's see what this actually does. Nope. All right. Delete. Delete. All right. Since I edited my front pattern, I'm gonna have to go back and add the seam allowance back in. All right. So now the front and the back are trued up. They're gonna work together well. These versions still have no seam allowance. So the next thing that we're gonna do is measure these armscye, because I did change it when I was changing my shoulder, and see how it matches up to the sleeve. So the sleeve, we will have to remove the seam allowance as well for the comparison. So I'm gonna go ahead and, oops, I don't know why it's doing that. Here we go. Join this, close it, copy, paste, contour tool, make sure that sharp corner is selected, and take away that seam allowance again. Okay, perfect. Bake appearance. Okay, and I can just go ahead and get rid of that one. All right, but I do have to come back and break the curve so that I can measure this line, my shoulder cap, basically. Oh, and there's these weird things that pop up sometimes when you're using that contour tool. Just delete that. Okay, it looks like my center point here, there is a node that's pretty close. I'm just gonna move that over like that. So that's the node that we're gonna break to separate the front and the back. Okay, so let's select the front and go to our area tool. See what that is? It's 8.273. Try to remember that. Go down to our front pattern piece here, and we got to do the same thing. We have to break the nodes, break the curve. Area tool. 9.265. So we know right away we have to add a little bit to our sleeve. Let's just compare that on the back pattern here. See what we have. Break. Break. Yeah, 9.272. All right, and I know that that is going to be much different than this. Oh, I keep forgetting to select my move tool. Remember, you can go over here to select your move tool. You can also hit V, and I think it's A for the node tool. Okay, yeah, so this is 8.38, and this was like 8.2 something, I think. 8.273, yeah. So we're gonna go ahead and join that back up. Is that the join? Yes, it's the join. Okay. Nine 9.272 plus 9.265. Pretty close. 9.265. 18.5 is our goal for this line here. And there's a couple things we can do to make sure that it gets there. We can add length here, which is going to widen our sleeve, or we can raise the cap, the sleeve cap. We're probably going to end up doing a little of both. Let me see what this measurement is, like around the bicep. I don't really want it much more than that. That's good, because my upper arm measurement is like 10 1/4, 10 1/2, something like that. And if we can actually just move my sleeve body map in and kind of compare. So I like that amount of ease. I don't really want to make the sleeve that much wider, because it'll just start looking a little, I don't know, floppy. All right, it's gonna get rid of that. So we're gonna raise the sleeve cap a little bit, and it's okay to do, especially in knits, because you're not really going to limit your range of motion because it's a stretchy material. Okay. So let me go back to the node tool, and I'm just looking at where the nodes are. There are 2 nodes here that are pretty much right where I would want to cut the sleeve. If I were doing this on paper in order to, slash and spread basically, and raise that sleeve cap up. I am not going to cut anything, but all I'm going to do is click and drag and just make sure I've selected all of those nodes. And then, oh, I did it again. First, copy and paste and lock so you can compare and see what you're doing. All right. Oh, first let's see what we're starting with here. Let's get the area tool. Okay, oof. So it's 16.6. We have to add a whole, like basically 2 inches to this line. So let's see. See how this is gonna go. All right, so now I'm just gonna shift and bump it up. I'm gonna bump it up. Kind of a lot. This looks like maybe it's gonna be like 1/2 inch or maybe 5/8 of an inch. I don't know, let's see. Ooh, 0.7 inches. Okay, let's see what this ended up as with that change. 17.6, so we still need to add more. We can see that there's a little bit of this, there's a weird bump happening here. We can start to kind of smooth that out. Can move this back in a little like that. See if that helps. A little bit here too. Okay. So let's see. I am going to maybe move it out just a little bit on each side and then maybe bump it up a little bit more. All right. So I'm gonna just set my 0 point here by clicking and dragging from the corner. So now you see that this is 0, it's lined up. I can put a little guide right at 0 there, or ish. Let's see, is it gonna let me move my guide? There we go. And then I'm just gonna make a square and change it to 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch. Put that there. Drag another guide. Quick and easy because it's not really well defined up here. Cut, paste. Do that with the other side real quick. Drag a guide. Drag a guide. Okay, and then I can just kind of get rid of that square. Okay, take this node and shift. Take this node, do the same thing. Just hitting shift and dragging, or arrow keys. All right, let's see what we have now. Should be about 18, I hope. Oops. Had the right tool. Okay, 18.2, we are so close. Now I think we can just manipulate this line a little bit to make it match, or bump it up just a hair. So let's see. I might even try, see what this looks like. Oops, I don't think it selected them. Let me just see what that did. 8.3. Okay. Hope you like my sound effects. 8.18.5. All right, cool. That's our goal. And it looks okay. You'd be surprised at how sort of what's the word I'm looking for? It's your sleeve can look like a lot of different things. It's as long as it matches up, you're usually okay, especially with your knit fabrics. Of course, the shape of your shoulder, affects how the sleeve is gonna fit. And you might want to make a sleeve sloper in a shape that fits you, especially if you're working with wovens. I think that would be a good thing to do. But you don't, like in a nice flowy knit pattern, this is going to be fine. I mean, the original pattern doesn't have a lot of difference in shape between the front and the back. There's a little bit, but not a whole lot. And in this one, let me see if I changed my line too much. Nope, it's good. This is a little steep right here. This bend, I might just kind of lessen that curve a little bit. And that might have shortened my line up a little, but I'm still right at 18.5. So that's good. Just trying to kind of make it look nice and smooth. But I'm really just kind of nitpicking at this point. All right. That's gonna be good. I can kind of nudge this out a couple points. Okay. That's gonna fit. I'm gonna call it good. All right. So again, I'm gonna copy paste this part of the pattern here because I'm gonna move this over and I don't want that nice like curved in shape to change. So I'm gonna lock one. I'm gonna go back to my node tool. I am going to zoom in a bit and just kind of click and drag this over. Click and drag this over. See how it looks. I think it still looks pretty good. Obviously, I did end up changing the width of my sleeve, which I didn't really want to do, but it's only a little bit. It should still be okay. I could, try and pull it back in, but I don't want it to bend in too extremely. I don't think that would be beneficial. So I think this will be okay the way it is. Yeah, I'm just gonna leave it. And I am going to unlock these and just get rid of that original seam allowance list pattern. Okay, but now I have to check and make sure my center point is in the right spot. So, what was our measurement over here again? I should have written it down. 9.272. 9.272. Oh, come on. Come on. Okay, and this one. $9.265. $9.265. Okay. Go back to my sleeve. And I'm gonna break it here again. V for the move tool, select the front, see what that ended up as. 9.231, that's pretty good. Let's see what this is. 9.284. Honestly, that's probably close enough. That is gonna be okay. Yeah, we don't have to mess with it. I could move it a little tiny bit, just this way. I guess I'll just move this piece. I could move, sometimes I'll move the points around, but I'll just like kind of nudge this over a tiny bit and call it good. Yeah, awesome. Love that. Okay. Oops. Join that together. I'm going to go ahead and join that together. Is this the close curve? Close the curve. Oh, is this grouped? No. Come on, Affinity. Group that. Move it up. And just over a tiny bit. That'll work. All right, you see when I joined and closed the curve that it did have a little aberration here. So let's just fix that. Just gonna go ahead and move that over. Neutralize the handle. There we go. Same thing over here. And remember, this is so close together. This is not actually moving the points a lot. So you wouldn't see a difference. All right. Just gonna move this thing back in place. Though that's going to be different because we still don't have seam allowance back on here. So let's go ahead and add our seam allowance back now that our sleeve is adjusted. So copy paste, contour tool, sharp corners, and I use a 1/4 inch seam allowance. There's still something weird happened here. It's honestly, in Affinity, oops, I have to bake appearance. In Affinity, I have noticed it is just way easier to move the points back instead of trying to go back to this pattern and figure out why in the world it's doing it in the first place. Like just fix it there. It's way quicker. Let's make sure, yeah, there's some weirdness going on here. Yeah, this is the only thing about Affinity that I don't like. There's a lot of this kind of thing going on with that contour tool, but it's worth putting up with. It really is. Because that contour tool is important for what we're doing here. And then I can just move this. This. There we go. Our sleeve is adjusted for all the changes that I made here. All right, now I have to check my neckline and make sure that this band is appropriate for it. I didn't make too drastic of any changes to the neckline, but I like to check all my neckline or neckband lengths anyway because I have specific preferences that I just know I like better. And so I often, in all kinds of patterns, change the neckband and just make my own. So again, I'm gonna break the curve here. select my move tool, select it, select my area tool. That's 4 inches, almost even. We'll go ahead and just plug that in. 4 inches. Go down to my front. Do the same thing. Break the curve. Break the curve. Select area tool, and that is 8.617. So plus 8.617 equals 12.6 times 2. And since I don't have any seam allowances yet, so this is what my neck hole is going to be once it's all sewn together. 25.25 basically. So my neckbands, I like to be like 86%, 83 to 86% of this number, including seam allowances. Using a stretchy fabric like rayon spandex, something like that, I'm probably going to be the 83%. Same thing for ribbing, 83%. And then for more structured fabric, definitely like cotton lycra, I'm going to use the 86%. And if it's something with not a lot of stretch, I may even go up to, like if I have to use like a two-way stretch fabric for some reason and I really want to use the least stretchy side, but it has a little bit of stretch, you know, you might even have to do something like 93%. Just depends on your fabric and what you're doing. Of course, that's not an ideal situation. You don't really want to do that. But for most fabrics that I use, the 83 to 86% is good. So I'm going to make 2 bands for both of those. But first I'm curious, I just want to see what the original is. But let's do the times 0.86 and just see what that is. Okay, 21.7. And let's just see what the original is. And of course, this has the 3/8 seam allowance on it. So yeah, let's see. I'm going to go ahead and make a new rectangle. Actually, I'll just change this rectangle to, what was it, 21.7. Double check. And you can see the height is almost at 1.74 or 1 3/4, which is actually what I prefer for my neckband. So I'm just gonna make it say 7.5 instead of 7.4. And that is good. So that'll be my cotton lycra-ish neckband, just in case I make it out of that fabric. And then copy paste. I'm gonna make another one. That will be, let's see, that was 25.23 basically times 0.83. So 20.9. I'm just gonna make it 21. 21. Okay, and then I can go ahead and label it. I'm just gonna say something like neckband 0.83. Neckband 0.86. So I'll know just because of the size, but it's always good to label things just in case you go away for a long time and you come back confused. You always think you won't, but then it happens. So labeling is good. Yay, our pattern is almost ready. We just have to add the seam allowance back on, which means we have to get these patterns back together into one solid piece. Let's go ahead and join and close. join and close. So exciting. Add seam allowance back on. I'm going to use my 1/4 inch preference. Wonderful. Oh gosh, look at this. What happened here? That's the one problem with breaking and then rejoining patterns in Affinity. Like, wow, this is a lot to fix. What is going on here? What is going on here? Oh, and I forgot to even, wow, that is crazy. All right, let's go back. Let's undo. What? Why? Why did that happen? See, this is why I say, like, when strange things like that happen, it's best to just fix it after the fact, because looking at this, there is zero reason why that should have occurred. I don't get it. But let me just try again. I'm gonna do it the right way this time by copy and pasting my pattern, contour tool, add my point 2.5, enter, and that happens. I don't know why. It is a little frustrating. My goodness, look at that. But the good news is we can easily fix this. We're okay. Like, maybe, I don't know. I have no idea. If anybody else knows, or you just want to express your frustration, go right ahead in the comments. It is very strange. You can just delete all these extra points. But see, that was pretty quick and simple, just to fix it after the fact. Let's see. Looks like everything else looks good. So, hooray. Okay, so now we just have to remove the seam allowance from the front. Looks like my pattern wasn't lined up. Why wasn't this lined up? Oh no, it's okay. It's just a tiny bit. All right, let's remove this. Again, we can just click and delete. Super easy. All right. Same thing with this. I think I already joined it up. So select, copy, paste, contour tool, put my 1/4 inch. You know, there's a little bit of, I don't know. Come on, Affinity. But it's okay, because we can just do this. Oh, yeah, it looks like there is a little weirdness in the original when it joined back up. I just wish it wouldn't do that. But, it looks fine. So I don't know. I just wish it wouldn't do that. Maybe in an update someday. Interesting. Very, very interesting. I'm going to delete. Just gonna kind of move this up like that. I can probably delete that. That looks good. And delete and delete. I hope this isn't too haphazard. It's but at least you can see this is my process, and and the great thing is you can do it anywhere you have some extra time, so you don't actually have to spend like a whole 45 minutes at once. If you don't have that, you can just take it wherever. Like if you have a laptop or your iPad, you can just take it wherever. I haven't actually adjusted patterns on an iPad yet, but that will be an interesting foray. I need to do that. Okay, so aside from just like moving my patterns around and making the document prettier, maybe changing, this line weight to have it different from my, my seam line versus my cut line. This is ready to go. So next step is to sew it up and show you what it looks like. So I will have some pictures of that at the end. Again, thank you so much for watching this video. If you got something out of it, please like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Let me know what you would like to see next. Let me know if you have questions, comments, things to teach me about Affinity, because again, I am a new Affinity user. I came from Adobe, so I'm still learning, Affinity in general. So yeah, thanks again. Bye-bye.